on the web, and so be it. So it is with joy that we come and we open ourselves to learn about this spiritual help as Daniel will bring to us in this little cold fall day of October 8th, 2022. Daniel, with no further ado, I'll pass the word to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Leo. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Right. Um, I'm just check something here. Just a moment. Leo is very tall, so I need to adjust here. I don't want it to be like hanging there, like, why? We just see the ceiling, not Daniel. So, so let me go back here and share my slide. Okay, I hope now that's right. Right, Leo? Okay, so good evening, everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, depends where you are in this planet, beautiful planet. Here in the US, we are like right now in the fall season, right, Paula? So it's getting a little cold, but we don't complain. We accept the change in nature. This is the beauty of live in this part of the planet, right? So as we can see here in the screen, the topic that we're gonna discuss today is about spiritual help, right? And I'm sure you already have some question in your mind. How do I get this spiritual help 24/7? And the good news is that we always have help from the spirits, right? the same the same way that our parent is always there. I mean, the good parent, right? Some parent is not, right? Is always there to their children. Our Father in heaven will never abandon us, right? But the question is, you may ask, why sometimes it seems that this spiritual help is not real, doesn't manifest in my life, right? So, welcome, Jeanette. Uh, well, the the proposition of this discussion is just take some of the teachings that we have learned in Spiritism, but I believe in other religion as well, because the foundation of religion is to make us, at least to help us to connect with the Creator and to receive spiritual help. So when we go to church, when we go to the Spirit Center, when we pray, the idea is that that act is to receive help. Although sometimes we pray by giving thanks, by praise God. But majority of the time when we find ourselves praying is to ask for protection, health, to, to be in a situation that is not going to be so um, difficulty, right? So that's the main idea that we resort to the spiritual help. So, but let us bring here a passage from the gospel. We can find this in Matthew chapter 7, verses 7 to 9. So, this is a passage that Jesus, in many of his teachings, he pretty much suggests to us that we should ask, right? And basically, this is the passage that talk about ask, seek, and knock, right? So, and Jesus said, ask and will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and the door will be open to you. So Jesus was the first one that is encouraging us to seek for help, right? Of course, he didn't say here spiritual help, right? Jesus was addressing here our connection with our Creator, that we always should, you know, come to our Creator, that there is a God, there is intelligence cause that is control, not control, but is taking care of all of us, right? Even though we acknowledge or not, he or she will eat, or whatever this force is, that we are not yet in the level to understand the nature of God because of our level of evolution, but we can feel the presence of God, right? So first, Jesus suggests to us that we should ask. There is nothing wrong with that, right? We should also find means to solve our problem. We should not, when they say ask, it's not just ask, sit there and just wait for the solution to come. But also, we should be proactive. We should be active in whatever we wanted to achieve. And the knock here is that we should search for help, right? Knock have a philosophical meaning here, and if you can put in a practical way. And sometimes when he say knock, the door will open. And sometimes we knock, but we walk away, right? And we can give some example to you. Sometime we decide, okay, I'm gonna work more in my spirituality. I'll go to the church, I'll go to the spirit center. I'll enroll myself in this training to learn how to do things that will help my life. This is the knock, right? But so many people do that and don't wait and walk away, right? So we should knock and wait means we should knock and stay until the door open. And sometimes this opening of the door is not going to be immediately, right? If you wanted to achieve a goal in your professional life, you have to go to a series of tests and instruction in order to achieve that that goal, right? So we can come back to this topic later. So and then Jesus continued by saying, "For everyone who asks receives; the one who seeks finds, and to the ones who knocks, the door will be opened." So there is we need to have this sense of continuity. Like, I'm gonna start this, I will vibrate in this level, so the door can be open, the opportunity can appear, right? And sometimes we see people, and even ourselves, find ourselves like, oh, I wanted to. And let's get an example that is very, 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 very like common, especially in the new year. I wanted to lose weight, right? I'm gonna enroll myself in the gym. I'm gonna, cut my carbs and exercise. And we see like after 1 month, January is over. So we are not persistent, right? We are not persistent. And that's and then we cannot complain, right? We cannot complain. And then he finalized this part of the text by saying, which of you, if your son asks for bread, will give him a stone? Well, this is a comparison. Jesus is saying, if you have children and you are God parent, if your children come asking for food, for bread, will you give a stone to the children? No. So if you that are not a perfect spirit, a perfect person yet, we're not gonna give, imagine God, our creator, right? So that's a beautiful, we wanted to start with this foundation because this topic of spiritual health, this is the foundation. When Jesus said, ask, seek, and knock, he's advised us to do that. But we need to pay attention in each of these three words, what Jesus meant, right? Because many of the time we just stay in the ask, right? We don't want it to be proactive. We want it just to fall from heaven. Or we don't want it to knock the door, which means we don't want it to enroll and make make a promise to ourselves that we wanted to change, right? So it's a lot of food for thoughts here. I want to just to go back and to bring a little bit about the Spirit's teaching, because once we understand what this philosophy, this I wouldn't say religion, but what Spiritism brings to us, and we understand the basic principle of Spiritism, this will help us to understand more how to be in connection with the spiritual plan, right? There is some principle that we need to believe, right? Because if we don't believe, so it's a waste of time to ask for spiritual help. Although God and the good spirit will help you no matter what, right? So no matter what, if you say that you believe or not, God will be there for you, because God's not worrying about recognition, about, because you say that you don't believe in me, I'm not going to help you. That's not the way the Creator works. This is the way we behave, right? Sometimes. So very, very quickly, the first principle is that we need our beliefs is the foundation to start the conversation. If we don't believe in a supreme force, intelligent cause, then we weaken our hopes to change, right? Because the hope to have a better life, the foundation is that we know that there is a end, a happy end. And that's the exercise of the hope, right? So, but if we don't acknowledge that there is a creator, there is a power force over that is watching us, we kind of gonna enter in a environment of despair, right? And sometimes we find ourselves in those situations. Immortality of the soul. I mean, we are spirits, or we are not just the physical body, right? We are just like living having a physical experience. So we, believe in the existence of the spirits, plurality of successive life. This has to do with reincarnation. When we say that why we have the challenge or the vision in this life. First is something that we conquer. Second, the difficulty and the suffering. If it's not the cause, it's not in this life, we need to look at back in previous life, because otherwise we may find that the creator is not just, right? God is not just. Plurality of inhabited planet. This is when we look at the grandeur of the universe, we we may ask, and we need to ask the question, why? What's there after our eyes cannot see anymore, right? What is means those pictures that the telescope sent to us from millions and millions miles away from Earth? So that has to do with places that we don't have much information in terms of um, uh, human life, but we know that it's a place that justified that saying when Jesus said that my father's house has my father house has many mansions. No? My father, I forgot. In my father kingdom are many mansions, many houses. Say again. I'm thinking Portuguese now. Huh? In my kingdom, in my father's kingdom are many mansions, where many houses, so places that we can use to evolve, to working our evolution, right? And finally, the communicability of spirits. So this is the topic that I think is very important for this talk, because if we, if this fourth principle and the last one, the communicability of spirit, is talking about the ability that spirit has to influence us. When we talk about spirit here, we are talking about incarnate and discarnate, right? It's easy for us to um, understand that we can influence one another, right? And the question is how this spiritual influence helps in our life. We're going to discuss this further. I would like to bring this question from the Spirit's book. And the question 459, when Kardec asked this question, do spirits have any influence in our thoughts and actions? And we have bring this so many times in our conversation, and it's always good to um, remind ourselves that this is so real, that is so real that we don't even pay attention in our daily life, right? We forgot, right? So the answer is their influence upon you in this regard is greater than you suppose, very frequently it is they who guides you. And so when we read this answer, comes automatically several questions. One of the questions is, how do I know that I've been guided by them, right? And if I'm being guided by them, what is my individuality? So, but the answer say, in this regard, is greater than you suppose for very frequently. It's not all the time, right? The answer say very frequently, which means that we are surrounded by a different level of mind, good and bad, right? So, and the question is, if they are guide us, is because we are connecting with them at some level, right? So the nature of this connection is where we need to work ourselves, right? Because one day in 24 hours, we can go from 0 to 10. 10 be very high frequency, 0 low frequency, no frequency, né? No frequency. I put 1 to 10, right? Let's give a number, right? So like that, our frequency is very low, which means we connect to those that are in low frequency. And translate frequency to the state of mind means that those that is lower frequency, they are more prone to evil, to makes people suffering. And if we connect to that, we will be in a state of pain and suffering. The opposite, if we go high frequency, we can translate this to a situation that we feel, no matter what, we feel we are in a very pleasant moment. We can transit between these two positive and negative environment, right? And it depends on us. That is our responsibility. So in this book that Leo has been every Monday when he presents here, he has been studying this book. There is a chapter 100, very easy to remember, 100, right? The Way, the Truth, and the Life by Emmanuel, psychographed by Chico Xavier. So these chapters talk about the help from the invisible realm. In other words, the spiritual help, right? That's the title of our conversation. So, and we like, although Liu already has presented this here, we wanted to just review or remind ourselves again for those that has not attended on Monday's meetings. Emmanuel's, we're just going to bring two paragraphs. Emmanuel start the chapter by saying, people are always anxiously hoping for help from the spiritual realm. It does not matter what such help is called. It is invariably the same, okay, it is invariably the same in its essence. So it doesn't matter what we call it, right? Amongst the spiritists, for example, it is known as the guide's watch care. We can say the spirit's guide, the guardian angel, the same that we call those help, type of helps, right? Whereas in Protestant circles, it is called the manifestation of the Holy Spirit, right? We see this in each religion or philosophy. They call this spiritual help. They have a specific name, but Emmanuel is saying here that doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if we call guardian angel, spirit's guide, benefactor, or you know, the Holy Spirit. The name that we give to those spiritual help doesn't matter. So the same spiritual help that we may receive in a spirit center, we can receive in a church, we can receive in a synagogue, or in a other religious mosque, right? So we are not exclusive in the creation, right? So there is many way that we can receive, many way, many places, but at the end, the nature of this spiritual help is the same. And he finalized this chapter by saying, help from the invisible realm is inconstable, constantly and unfailing, never fails. the help, right? But it is essential that believers not get accustomed to this type of collaboration, that they learn to walk by themselves using their independence. They are in this world in order to learn, and that they are not allowed to ask their instructor to solve the problems that are necessary in their position as a student. So in another way, Daniel, what they are saying here, when they say that we should not be asking the instructor, we should not abuse, right? Or ask them to solve our problem, right? When we pray, when we ask for spiritual help, let's be very humble. Let's not be demand. Let first, before we ask, do what Jesus instructs us. Let's recognize how small we are, right? Uh, and be humble, and reconcile and acknowledge that we are not perfect yet. And then we address and ask for help, right? So if we are in a situation in our workplace that we have a problem that we cannot solve in our workplace, we don't go to our boss and demand that he help us to figure out, right? So if you ask for like a meeting with our boss at work, we should come very humble, right? We should like, boss, I may have some problem. I tried several times, several way, but I could not figure out. Can you give me a suggestion? Or point me to a suggestion how I can solve this? And we are not saying here that we should be afraid, but it's the humility, the way we address to ask for help. Because sometimes we become very demanding, right? I'm suffering so much. Can you come and remove this? I mean, sometimes the instructor they cannot do because that process that we are going through is important for our evolution, right? It's like Emmanuel mentioned here, you know, instructor. We should not keep asking the instructor to solve our problem, but there is nothing wrong to ask the instructor, the spirit's benefactor, to give strength for us, to give courage, to give hope, so we can be able to endure that situation in our life. Easy to say, but when we are in this situation, it's very hard to to accept, right? But that's why we need to remind ourselves that no matter what happened in our life, we are not alone. We always have, protection as long as we open our mental field for that help. So the question now that begs us, how does the spiritual help take place? I don't think, is this question right? How does the spiritual help takes place? Yeah. Okay, so I always ask my wife to proofread my presentation, but today, I mean, there is other priorities in my home, so kids sick and other stuff. But so I always like to make sure that there is no distraction in my presentation. So there is only one way, through our thoughts, through our mind. There is no other way. It's not through our hands. It's not through our ears. I mean, the ears, the hand, all the sense that we have is coordinated by our mind, right? So we are sensorial beings. So we feel things. We have the five senses, right? We can hear, we can see, we can smell, but all this is controlled by the central, hardware, our brain that's controlled by our mind, and the mind that resides in the spirit, right? And through our thoughts, now the mind produces the thought. Through our thought, that will, be traveling through this space by using the universal or cosmic fluid, you know, and we don't have time to go to the detail. We have been talking about this, but is this a primitive matter that fills the universe, right? Each planet has a decomposition of the cosmic fluid that is very appropriate for the planet. And this cosmic fluid is the vehicle of our thought. So the same way that sound, that air is the vehicle of sound, right? If we are in the space, if we speak in the space, the other person cannot hear. because there is no air, right? So here, thoughts travel by uh, through this universal fluid. So the question is, what's the degree of sensitivity um, that someone may have to perceive this spiritual help, right? So we have pretty much two. We have like the subliminal sensitivity and the ostensible. So here we go more to the area of if the person is ostensible medium or one that perceives the presence of the spirit or not, and those that just have that intuition, but they are not able to register like a ostensible medium is able. So we have pretty much these two type of sensitivity, and we have people that really can have those direct, connection with the spiritual plane. Others, no, not right. How is the nature of this influence? So how someone can perceive that, okay, has been a spiritual help? Well, there is many ways, but there is two main uh, uh, um, um, mechanisms. One is direct, and the other one is indirect. So it means like, we are in a situation and we perceive some dangers. So immediately we hear that someone say, don't do this or go this way. So that is a direct influence, right? That we capture from the spiritual team, our mentors, for example. But sometimes we are in a situation that we are so stressed in a so stressful environment that we cannot we are completely closed, right? And how can our spiritual mentor can like give some suggestion to us what to do it? Because if this communication, this influence is through our thought, someone need to, I mean, we need to open our mind to receive that thought, right? It's like, for example, if we are here in this room and we put a loud music over there, and what happened to our communication? It's become like um, uh, um, um, a problem, right? Because there is too much noise going on that if Leo, that's the back of this room, talks to me, I cannot hear, right? So sometime in our life, the degree of stress that we are blocks the influence that our guardian angel is trying to exert upon us. That's why it's always good when people say, if you're too stressed, if you're too angry, don't do nothing. Don't say anything. Keep silence. It's very difficult, right? But keep silence, because that moment we have no protection. We are just like be either a instrument of a bad influence, or we are bring our past life behavior that is not yet polished to this life, and we may create a problem. So the indirect influence happens like this. For example, you are very stressful, the situation is very, and your mentor is trying to like, you are not even praying, your mentor is trying to access you, right, to give some suggestion, but we are not open. So the mentor can go and talk to another person, that somehow can break the vibration, and the other person out of the blue can, hey friend, what about if you do this or do that, and give some light. That person, the third person, was influenced by the mentor of or our mentors, right? There is two good example of this. One is in 2019 in Brazil. I saw this in the news. I don't know if you guys saw this news. A family went to I think it was in your state, John, Paraná. I don't know if it was Paraná or Rio de Janeiro. So there is this. They went to this house that is surrounded by forest, right? It's kind of like a farm, I think. I don't remember, but the idea is that this couple has a 2 years old daughter. Yeah, she was 2 years old, right? So the mother parked the car. she went inside of the home to do something. It was like split of second. They say split of second, but maybe like took like 2 or 3 minutes. And the 2 years old daughter, her daughter, left. So when she came back to the car, the daughter was not there. And the daughter left with the dog, right? And disappeared because surround that house was only, there is no other house. For miles, there is no other house. So she panicked, right? And she called the police. After she called her husband, that her husband was also inside of the house, and they look around the house like for a couple hours, they couldn't find. Like split of second, this 2 years old girl disappeared with the dog. And you know, a dog may bark, right? No barking, nothing. So they pretty much got so stressed. They called the police. The police called the uh, fire department. The fire department sent like hundreds of men, like the police, the fire department, and they were like searching for this girl for 20 hours. 20, like almost 24 hours, right? So this was in the afternoon, went the whole night and the other day, and they are looking for the girl. So then the mother was already like completely devastated, everybody. Then the mother, suddenly she stops, I'm gonna pray. There is no hope anymore. Because in that situation, everybody say either an animal came and ate them, or someone kidnapped and is so far away. Yeah, I mean, like it was a place. And so the mother decided, and this is the new, you can Google, I if you ask me later, probably is in YouTube. So the mother decided to do this prayer, and this fireman joined the prayer. A fireman joined the prayer. And if I'm not mistaken, this is the account from the spiritual side, right? Because so, and then what happened is after they pray, this fireman has an idea. He had an idea. Well, we have looked for everybody, but this fireman, a young man, decided, okay, there is a trail that we didn't look at. And he went to that trail that was like, not too far from the house. As he went to the trail, he saw the little girl come with the dog. So then, of course, if someone that doesn't believe in the spiritual help, what the person is gonna say, wow, this guy is a hero. He was a hero. If someone that doesn't believe God say, wow, that's amazing, right? Then in a mediumistic meeting in a spirit center in Brazilian, so one of the spirit work that was already in the spiritual plane, he died, he was in the spiritual plane. And because this became now national news, so he gave a communication at the sense, say, look, I start to work from the other side now, after many years that he has disincarnated. And my first work was I went to help that little girl, that case that happened, and I asked the mentor to, bring me to help. And he was telling what happened on the other side. The moment that the mother and the people get together and pray, they open the mental field for those people that was over there to go to that place. And the fireman, one of the firemen was the only one that was in a little bit high vibration. He had the idea. So, and he went to that place and find the girl. He was inspired, yes. He was inspired to look in a different way in the place. So this is to give an example of indirect influence. So he was, I mean, although the mother was the one that was asking for the spiritual help, and he was not in condition to search anymore because she was completely drained, devastated. But those that was, more like focused into solve the problem, they receive a boost of inspiration. Yes. So this is to show that we always can be an instrument of the spiritual team, right? That's why people say, say good morning, greet people with a smile, because that can change the vibration of that person, and the person may find a solution for their problem. We never know. We may encounter people that is think about commit suicide, and if we say something nice to that person, we may like move level of vibration to more positive one about life, right? So this is like if people come and say, okay, who are those spirits that help us, right? They are like us. They're people like us that have passed away. They are for sure a little bit more advanced. They could be family spirit that after they discarnate, no, they continue close to us, helping the same way they were helped when they were alive in the physical body. How many spirits may accompany us daily? It depends. So we don't know, right? Depends on the vibratory level of our thoughts, right? Right. If we wake up in the morning, so and we need to see what we learn in the book Action and Reaction about what is our central desire, right? What in 20 in a day, let's put the day means like 12 hours from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., right? So in that day, what is the type of thoughts that come to your mind all the time? What is the central type of concern that we have? I mean, we have normal concern like, I need to pay my bills, I need to go my work, I need to do this my work, I need to feed my kids, I need to, these things that no matter what, it's gonna happen every day, right? But how many time in your mind you put on that, right? And if you are not putting on that, so what other type of concern are you like feeding your mind? Because that's gonna decide the level of vibration, right? That you're gonna be, right? And we're gonna connect with those that's in the same line of thought. When I was in college, in the university, I have a one of my colleagues was my best friend at that time. Um, so he used to say like this to me, Daniel, let's win the lottery, right? And he has this exercise. They say, so if every day during the morning, because when we wake up in the morning, our mind is still like not too much worry, like we are not. So the power of the mind. And this guy was so like certain about the power of the mind that he said that he read in a book, yeah, that if every day for 15 minutes you put in your mind in something, that thing will materialize every day. So I wake up this morning, I'm gonna put my mind for 15 minutes only that I wanted to have that job, right? So you wake up in the morning, you visualize the job, you visualize driving to the job, you visualize having a place in that building, you visualize have the ID, So for 15 minutes, you just keep doing this. Don't so in that time, what we used to do is like this. In that time, what you used to do is put your mind to get good grades, right? We are in school, so let's put mind to get good grades. I used to do this a lot. And believe it or not, it works. Works, you know? Yeah. But you need to, yeah, you do natural, yes. But here's the thing, be careful what you ask for. That is the trick. So because we wanted to have stuff, but we don't want to have the problem that come with that things that we wish, right? So it's very you need to ask, you know, if what you because heaven because they will manifest, right? The mentors, those they will like, well, you are vibrating so much in that direction that there is nothing that we can do because we have the power. The spiritual team will help us, but if we wanted to move in this direction and they are asking us to go this direction, if we are so certain that this direction is the best for us, they will let you do it. Why? Because there is one thing that we as a spirit we was granted through our evolution called free will. Even Jesus can materialize here and say, Daniel, please don't do this. It's gonna be if I wanted to do this, is not gonna stop you to do it. Will not stop you to do it. So we should really analyze what type of influence or help we want. Because sometimes that help that we want will bring in the long run uh, a difficult situation in our life, right? So what type of spirit that may influence us? Those who find affinity with us due to our vibrat- vibratory patterns, right? How do we attract them? Vibratory or mental patterns. So is what we put in our mind, right? If we put our mind that, we wanted to be more, working our virtues. So we're also gonna have help of those that want us to better themselves, right? What is the objective of their influence? To help or to keep their vices. Depends of the vibrator level. These influences will be for good or for bad, right? So, okay, this is an example. We have 15 minutes. This is an example that um, I brought here before, and Leo and I we had discussed like a couple weeks ago, and said, "Oh, this is a nice case. This is the a case that is in the book Reportagem de Além Túmulo. This book is not in English yet, but it's called Report from Beyond the Grave, I think, something like that, if we translate, right? So pretty much is a collective of cases that the spirits Humberto de Campos brought through Chico Xavier. In this case, as in chapter 8, is called the free thinker. Why I'm bringing this to us? Because we all have what we call our reincarnatory plane, right? We come here, we have the life that we have, many of the things that we go through is product of our choice. Either we ask before we incarnate, or we make choices in this life that make us end up in that situation. The family that we are, the husband, the type of work that we have, we contribute for that. Okay, let's not be a victim and say, oh my goodness, why, I'm in this situation. Well, we put ourselves there. How do we know that? The previous slide explain, because our vibratory pattern. And how but I'm a good person, I don't think about this. Well, there is two ways to analyze our thoughts. One that we call conscious thought, the one that we know that we're thought, and the other one is unconscious, that we vibrate, but we don't bring that to our, conscious mind, right? So we vibrate to that, right? So this guy, this man, the free thinker is the type of this this chapter. His name Raimundo da Anunciação. Is a very Brazilian name, okay? So I don't know even how to translate this in English. So he was a materialist person, right? Raymond Anunciação, I don't know. Annunciation. Raymond of Annunciation. Yes, John did a free translation here. So he was a materialist. He didn't believe in God. He was very materialist guy. But suddenly he became a spiritist, right? And I like to bring this example because this example is for us, spiritists, right? And so he became so Humberto de Campos he became so fascinated with the teaching that now he wanted to convert everybody to spiritism. He used to go to his work. He was complaining about people that was from other religion. Everything he was, those polemic type of people that everything that they look, they find a problem and they think that they have the right. So he was like this. I mean, we all have some of Raimundo da Anunciação in our life, but he was too much. He was like, nothing was right for him. Everything was wrong from the government, from the people that work in the job, from people from other religion. He was to um, talk bad about the priests, about other peoples, about colleagues at work, bad mouth one colleague to another colleague. So, so he was like this. There is nothing for him that is, and he at the end he used to say like this: "I'm a free thinker. I'm open mind, but there is things that I should not, And he thinks that he has the truth with him. He spent so much time on that, right? That one day, what happened to all of us one day? So we get old, right? But he was not old when he died. He was just 53. He was like young, right? But his mother many times has to call him, my son, please don't engage in topics that, make people upset. So what happened to this guy? He didn't have friends because everybody was, distanciated from him because every time, yeah, he was a troublemaker in the sense that, he, yeah, yeah, exactly. Everybody has a problem for him, and he has a solution. But he was the kind of the person that is not aware that people are different, right? He doesn't accept that people can be different. So here's what happened to him. So he was rebellious, controversial, and he has a lack of understanding. Basically, that's the three things that he was. He keep constant in arguments, cultivate many enemies because the way he addressed to people, very disrespectful, and he did not listen. He didn't want to talk to any um, situation that that he thought to impose personal conviction. So he tried to push you know his belief, right? We see people like this in all places in our society. It's not because he was a spiritist, because spiritist people, Christian people, and the good Jewish, they never gonna push things. If people is pushing things to you, there is something wrong in the teachings, because the teachings is very respectful to other people and to different situation, right? So, so what happened? He died, right? And he died, he was 53 years old. When I was reading, I read again, and oh my God, I'm 51. It's just, oh, he was like my age, like my, it's a 53-year-old, he died. So after he died, he's suffering a little bit in the other side, and he was rescued to a spiritual colony, right? He was rescued there. So after 2 years, after 2 years, like meditating, he was like, I messed up. He recognized that he messed up. And then he decides, okay, it had been 2 years that I had been suffering remorse, right? Repent. So I wanted to have a meeting with the director of the institution. I want to ask, to repair the situation, right? So what happened? When he came to have the meeting with the spiritual coordinator of the colony, the they received very well the talk. I said, okay, so but and he wanted to accent to go to more like high level or to even to reincarnate, right? But the man said, look, before I listen to you, let's look at your files. Let's Raimundo files. So and if you read this story, so Humberto de Campos says that the spiritual benefactor went to not address at place that has like beautiful books, and he got one of those filed book that was like very radiant, right? And brought, let's see, your file. And here was what happened. This is just like the file said that he lived 53 years old and 5 days on earth in the physical body, right? So I did the hours, right? Because the method just talk about the year. So this means that 460,000 hours, right? 460,000 hours. That is how many his lifespan. And the mentor said 1/3 is spending rest, sleep, and distraction. So which means, so the 53 years old, he spent 18 years on these three things. Rest means sleep, right? Or take nap, and distraction. Maybe like, I don't know, watching Netflix, if we have Netflix in those time, right? Because that's his distraction, right? That's just like, so 18 years. So this corresponds to 33% of his life. 33%, okay? Let's go to the numbers. So he spent 58,000 hours in the office at work, which means 6.6 years, right? That's only, I was like, this is like active working. Like, you go to work, it's not like the coffee break. Coffee break doesn't count here, right? So is active work. So the mentor explained. So let's pretend that he's 53. He starts to work for in his 20. So he worked for 30 years, 33 years old. But actually work, he did only 6.6. So only 13%. So I guess the other coffee break and talk about people's the distraction stuff, right? Like 5.8 years, that is 11% of his life. That is 51,000 hours. He spent feeding the body. So it's the time that you breakfast, lunch, and dinner, right? So it's like 5.8 years, right? So this is very close to my life. I mean, I don't know about the 1% of distraction, but probably I have a little bit more. I don't know. But I was thinking about myself, like I was put at this, like, oh my goodness. Now comes the problem. Now comes the problem. Okay. If you put together 33 plus 12 plus 13 plus 11, you're gonna have an idea how many of his time he was not, he was not doing anything constructive. It's just like normal thing, right? Now comes the problem. He spent 43%. 43% is almost like 50% of his life, which means 200,000 hours with unproductive discussions, mental or verbal, direct or indirect. Oh my goodness. Look, this is 42%, right? So that's back the question for us. This is like a personal evaluation for us. How many time we spend on discussion, thing that like unproductive. I mean, of course, I'm not saying that we should not discuss things to people, but there is limit for discussion, right? So we judge if that discussion is productive or not, right? So, but we may say, oh, this is important, but in the scale of your reincarnatory plane is a distraction, right? So, so when he came to this hour, Raimundo Anunciação was already crying. And when we read the chapter, I mean, I was like, feel so like tight. Oh my goodness. I was like, put myself in his place. And the mentor said, look, this was your opportunity. And I must have 50% of your life you didn't. I mean, like the other thing, let's put the 33% that is sleep, rest, distraction, because we are in the physical body, right? It's accepted, but like 43% of unproductive discussion. And the problem here is that it was not unproductive for him, is that he also, the mental side like this, because of your imposition and discussion, you are always pulling people away from find help. Because if someone has, for example, if I have sympathy for spiritism and someone come and I'm not spiritist and someone that spiritist come to me and start to say things that will like, I don't want to know more of this philosophy anymore, right? There's people that instead of help you to understand, they push you away. So the mentor said, look, also you're responsible for those people that lost the opportunity to find help because the way you approach certain situation. And why I'm bringing this regards to our topic of spiritual health is that also behind the scene of this man that can be one of us, his mentor tries so many times to intervene through his mother, through people at work, to say, hey, zip it up. It is enough. Let people live their life. Let people make their choice. Don't push too much because you're losing. So, and now he's on the other side asking opportunity to reincarnate. And the man said, look, okay, I to you the reincarnation, but how what is the guarantee that reincarnate again you're not gonna do the same? And he came with a solution. He asked, the chapter says, then Raimundo Anunciação turned to the mentor and said, I wanted to be born again, deaf. But he was deaf. mute, not deaf, mute. Yeah, it was the opposite. But his ear was perfectly fine. So he has a unique situation that he was born mute, he couldn't speak, but his ear was perfectly fine. He can hear, but he cannot speak, right? So in his next incarnation, he's gonna live only 22 years old until 22, and then something is gonna happen. He's gonna go back to the spiritual plane. But he said, I wanted to go to that process in order for me to training myself for the next opportunity. So he's gonna have a reincarnation that would be completely not paralyzed but impaired to be just to protect him. So now, by looking this from outside, we may see people, and we are not judging here because each one of us has our impairment at different levels. But we should not even, that's why let's ask the spiritual plane to help us to endure our limitations, our problem. But let's be careful for what we ask for, right? So that's why I wanted to highlight this. I mean, if you guys wanted this chapter, I can email to you. You can read the detail. I can send to you the whole book. So to finalize, the best way is prayer. We need to pray. Always remember that prayer is a communication with the highest spiritual plane or communication straight with God. We already brought this. We can ask during our prayer. We can give thanks. We can praise. So when we pray for help, God will consider as what? We already brought this courage, patience, and resignation. So CPR, right? Courage, patience, resignation. Our prayer should concentrate on that. The means of resolving situation with the help of ideas suggested to us by good spirit at God inspiration. So at the end, all the help comes from God. The good spirits, those that are incarnate and discarnate, they will be an instrument of this help. We retain the merit for the decisions take. So whatever we wish for, if it is a good thing, we have the merit. If it is a bad, the bad choice also will be accountable for that decision. To finalize, I would like to bring this message from Joanna Judge from the book After the Storm, chapter 18. Joanna says, if your day appears to be gloomy and frightening, wait for tomorrow. So she say, look, don't make any strong decision. Wait for tomorrow, right? Tomorrow can be next year, next month too. So tomorrow is like a philosophical way to say, right? Because some problem you cannot be solved in 24 hours. There are problems that may take years to be solved. So she say, wait, be patient, right? Wait a little longer when everything seems to drive you into despair. Wait. Susanna Simone is very nice, told us in his talk. When I asked her, Susanna, in the middle of the problems, what we should do, I said, don't do nothing. Let's wait. Because that moment, whatever decision I try to do, there is some action that we do when is related to our instinct of survive, right? That we is like doesn't even go to our rational. So to protect ourselves. But if you have still have a little bit of like thoughts that okay, I don't know what to do. The situation is very so. Let's just like pray and make sure that if it is like relate to relationship, is something like argument. Please hold yourself as much as we can. Divine providence helps. Divine providence has ways of which you are completely unaware for clarify things and remove errors and difficulty. We don't know our past. I mean, we may feel like the feelings that we have, how we were before, right? And one of the things that we learn in spiritism when people ask, oh, I want to know who I was in previous life. And the best way to know that is just look your tendency in this life. Just let's look what our mind comes, what type of thought we have, what is our central desire. That show to us how we were before, right? love life and love to live, even when misunderstood and undergo a great sacrifice and treading a thorny road. So when we walk in the path of like very stony road, in this case, a thorny road, so um, we should keep living. We should keep our mind that nothing is forever. Uh, so, therapeutic tools. Let's keep our mental renewal, self-analysis, discovery, always focusing ourselves instead of us focusing the other person, what the other person is doing, what the choice other person is making. So that is belongs to that person, right? Let's think about ourselves. Discipline of our vibrator pattern, right? So let us do a survey in our daily life and see what type of thoughts I emit the most, right? What is my concern, in 24/7 in a day, right? In a 12 hours day. What is my main concern, right? We oscillate, right? Depends of the situation. We oscillate. Sometimes my concern is about work, is about, as the situation of our country, the situation that we are living, the economy, all this thing. That's normal. We like fluctuate on this, but how long, how many time we stay in that level? So that's the question. Inner transformation, this is very personal. Vigilance, press good action, charity, and prayer, right? So that's a butterfly quote. Jonah Jones says, when persecution comes from all sides, helps come from above. I really love that, you know. So we translate to English because I read this in Portuguese. It makes sense, right? And sometimes we dwell in ourselves, like, you know, like it seems that whatever we do, problems comes from, right? So let us concentrate that, we have also help come from above. In Chico Xavier, there's a great example for us spiritists when he said, if I would expect better spiritual conditions to serve, I would not have started until the present moment. Which means that, folks, let's not wait for the better situation to do our part to help. Let us do as much as we can today, tomorrow, if the situation arises, right? So that's it, folks. What is that? With the tools of we have, yeah, that's very good. I like this. Antonia just said that let's help with the tools that we have because we all have tools. We all have ways to help, right? Some people is more skilled in this, other in that, right? Um, and that's is our tools. That's is working. Let's not wait for. Oh, let me wait when I retire. I'll do this. No, when you retire, maybe we're not gonna have time for that because we find out that maybe we have a terminal disease. Now you need to treat yourself from that disease. I have example for that. I know someone that keeps saying this all the time. Someone in Brazil that's, oh, when I retire, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. The person retired, and then 6 months later, find out that he has a terminal cancer. Like in a span of a year, the person died. So yeah, let's not wait for that. Let's do as we can with the tools that we have. I like that, Antonia, and with that, I'm gonna stop here and see if we have any question here. Let me stop my remove that. And we have a question here from our dear Yasko. Hi, Daniel. I wonder if there would be more kind of miracles happen if we could put ourselves more often. Leo, can you remove the? No, I think it's the often in a condition to receive inspiration from the higher, i.e., if we ask, seek, or knock, as Jesus advises. I think we will, yes, we would, I like that you put miracle quote and between quotes because, yeah, we know in spirituals that miracle um, is although we acknowledge that miracle is those situations that we don't have explanation, right? But at if we dig deeper, we know that everything has a cause, right? Every effect has a cause. We may not know the cause, but I agree, Yask. I think if we put ourselves in that mode of, ask, seek, or knock, as Jesus advised, one thing that I like to believe, Jesus never would suggest anything for us if he was not able to do, if it was not possible, right? And I completely agree with you. I think um, we will be more like a good instrument from the spirituality. That's a nice point. Let's see if we have more. Thank you, Rosauro, for your heart's prayer. Huh? Okay, so any question here? So, um, any comment or question? I don't know if people can hear, but let me see. I think if you speak in the microphone, maybe we can pick up here. Hello, Dustin. You wanna make any question, comment? Paula, Antonio, Johnny, people that are here, the incarnated one. Hello, Dustin. Leo, any comment, any question? Paula? No? You're gonna, I saw you writing stuff, so you can speak close to the microphone. I think it's yeah.
Okay. I think the tricky part is the unknown part of ourselves.
The unknown,
The tricky part
the tricky part is
unknown.
the unknown of ourselves. Yes.
So it seems to me, unless you're really an avid dream analysis person, because I know Spirit speaks through our dreams,
Mhm.
we most likely need feedback from somebody.
Yeah, that's a good point, and I left this out of my presentation because one of the things that I didn't touch is the spiritual help that we receive during the sleep time, and that is huge, right? We have a lot of cases in the Andrea Luiz literature, and also in the books from Brother X, Humberto de Campos, when people was advised during the sleep time or give solution, not solution, suggestion to solve problem. And I believe we have experienced that, right? And that is very important what you say because I'm gonna go back to the self analysis to know ourselves, but I wanted to just make this one of the tools that we can take to receive more spiritual help is the intelligent sleep. What it is intelligent sleep is means like, okay, the situation is very different in our life. Let's, I'll pick myself. I have a huge problem in my work. I'm gonna use and I don't know how to solve the problem. I have a problem of relationship with someone, a coworker, or a family member. How can I mitigate? How can I minimize the problem? Well, sometimes the other side is not open to solve the problem, but that brings an uneasy feeling. And sometimes we cannot function well during the day. What do we do? Intelligent sleep. Because during the intelligent sleep, we are emancipating from our physical body, so we are more in contact with our spirit's guide, right? And also, sometimes the spirit's guide of the person that we have an issue. And they may give to you some solution during the sleep time. Not solution, but some suggestion. Because at the end of the day, we made the decision. It's not the good spiritual help. They give to you, they point to some direction, but you are the one that find the solution. They because if they do the homework for you, then they are like kind of like cutting your free will, right? So that's the way it works. The mechanism is that they don't come to solve your problem, but they help to create means or situation that you are gonna find a solution. Like good parent, right? Like good teacher, right? You don't give the answers of the test to your student, right? So it's the same way. Now going back to the comment about the trick part, and I agree with you. The trick part is that we don't know ourselves, but also can be the beautiful part of this process. Because the fact that we don't know ourselves, we will know ourselves by, you know, make mistakes, right? So there is a case about Chico Xavier about the stone and the hammer. You know what the hammer do with the stone? They polish the stone. A stone never gonna be polished if there is no a hammer to, or chisel to, to make a beautiful sculpture. So the fact that we don't know ourselves is not a problem. The problem is don't make effort to know ourselves. That's the problem. So because yeah, it's like looking for little kids and expect that little kid, and we are the little kids, spiritual little kids, to come with extraordinary solution for a problem. But I think resilience, it would be one thing. Like, okay, I know that I'm still like not doing what I know what the right thing to do, but I'm missing that opportunity to do the right thing. Recognize that we are still fallible, but we know the way is the beautiful thing for to know ourselves, right? And it's an exercise, it's a process. I think from this conversation that we are having here about the spiritual help about ourselves, is that for God we are already perfect for God, right? Because God only create perfect things, right? In His or her and its eyes, right? For us to have a vision that Jesus has, we are still a little bit away from that, and we need to work with the tools that we have, right? And I think step by step we're gonna get there.
I just wanted to share, I guess in some of my reading this week, they referred to our feelings as our GPS system. So the more in touch we are with our feelings, and we know we're feeling anxious or down or something, that then is our cue to stop,
Yeah,
pray, ask to return to balance, whatever we need to do before that piles up on it. Whoops.
Hmm.
Okay. In other words, I
yeah,
think you.
yeah. I got it. Paula is mentioned about that we should pay attention to our feelings because our feelings is the one that will um, um, has more like may have more positive outcome if we pay attention. It's the gut feeling, as we mentioned, right? And you're right on that, Paula, because we, although we have our intellectual, our rational part, but we are, we are the, we are the, we are the, we are the. What's I mean? Okay. Okay. So okay. So we the way that we are defined our identity is based in our feelings, right? So how we receive things and how we emit things, right? And so it's very important that we pay attention to that because decisions is made based on feelings, right? When we decide to say something or to make a statement or to avoid things is has the root in our feelings. So when we evolve as a spirit, when we become a spirit, individualized spirit, the acquisition of our intellect is to educate our feelings, right? So we are not talking about instinct, or that is more like enrooting our evolution. So that is something that, but is make our feelings become a positive instinct, right? So one day we just like vibrate in good things. That is away, very far away from now. But what you said, yes, work with our emotions, and emotion is different of feelings. Emotion is the outcome of the how the feeling is processed, right? So, one example. So I come here and suddenly there is a snake, right? So that is going to generate an emotion, right? Because now it's processed that feeling to be bite, to that fear will translate in emotion. So, and we know that you're a psychologist, you know that this process. So the question is how we control that fear. It's not that we remove the fear, but how we educate that fear. How can we educate that difference that we have with other one in ourselves? And that, I think, is the challenge of our generation. That's the big challenge. And what happened, because people doesn't know how to deal with this, and I put myself on that, we are get more people depressed, people committing suicide, because they don't know how to deal with that. And I always have a conversation with Leo and Kissing last week, and I was share some of my myself to them, because they are for me like my wife and my big brother over there, like how I was before and how I see myself now. There is a long way for me to change, but I see some things that I used to do it, that now I step back. I said, oh, let me process this. Processing how this is changed, because we are studying, we're supposed to put that in practice, right? And I think what many things that you have read has made you a better person, right? Because if it's not, I don't know what to say. I think, right? So the same thing for us here, right? Everything, how many, if you do like a survey in our personal life, we say, oh my goodness, I wish when I was my 30, I should have acted different. But we didn't know, right? So we should not punish ourselves as well. We should see this as a way that, okay, if today I'm seeing this in this way, so I wanted to continue see different way to solve a problem without, compromise myself. One more, and then we're gonna,
Yeah.
yeah. Go ahead.
My other comment was I wanted to add meditation into the toolbox.
Mhm.
And I also wanted to complement the Monday night process because the way I perceive it, through the prayer, the focus and the elevated vibrations are coming.
Mhm.
And then when we have the moments of silence with the music
Yeah.
playing, that's a wonderful time to receive inspiration because we're quiet.
Mhm.
And then the other power of meditation, if one chooses to sit for 5 minutes, just start
Yeah.
small, mindfulness, is we are able to step back from our thoughts.
Mhm.
And that really is what we want to be able to do, to catch these thoughts. And then through the repeated practice of the sitting and the watching of the thoughts, they become more like
Yeah.
weather patterns and we're less
Yeah.
consumed. Thank you.
And thank you so much for bringing that, Paul. Paul is bringing something more related to our activity here in the center, about this moment of meditative moment during our Monday's meeting, and I agree with you. One thing that um, I tell some of people that comes to the Spirit Center, especially like when we do the fraternal assistance, when we talk, the time that we spend here at the center is a sample. It's a sample. Like, when you go to Costco, for example, they give you a sample, right? Like of food, right? They give a little sample for you to taste, right? So what I used to say to all my people, that especially in our fraternal assistants, that look, the time that we spend here is a sample of the type of thing that you need to implement in our lives, right? And I agree with you, like, do the active exercise, do more like meditation thing. It's good. I mean, we that present here, let's work on that. But we want to also to encourage not to wait for Monday to do that, but create like a, schedule for you to do yourself. Because to do a meditation, to do a visualization, we have so many beautiful material out there that we can implement in ourselves. Of course, what Paul is saying here is that when we do this in group, it seems like more fun, right? It's more like, it's nice, effective. We have more power. We have received more protection. Definitely, there is no question about this. But it's also, I like your comment. Thank you for that. I know we have been talking about this before. I would like, talk to my colleagues to implement that. Last question from Leo. In ask, seek, and knock process, what is preparation and how important it is for us to prepare for what we are asking for? So I think, Leo, is good because you put preparation before. This sometime when we ask because we are not prepared, right? So I think the preparation, instead the preparation come before the ask, before the thing. The preparation you should come after that. Okay, I will give an example. Okay, I know that, for example, you are in the middle of the situation and you are so despair that we could see preparation, maybe go to a quiet place, right? Prepare yourself to do that, right? But preparation only comes when we are training in that, right? So people that pray every day, when the situation comes, automatically they go to a prayer mode because they are already trained for that. Okay, so maybe you are talking about this, Leo, about the preparation before you ask in the middle of a situation, right? But here I can see preparation after, for example, question, a question. So let's forget the ask. Let's go to the knock, right? So you knock, but now you need to have patience to wait for the door to open. The door to open may take times. And thus time, you need to prepare yourself. Because when the door open, we don't know what's coming to the other side, if it is my more problem. Like, I'll give you an example. You wanted to win the lottery, right? You keep knocking, you keep thinking. One day you're gonna win the lottery. So now you have a bunch of people calling you and ask you for money, and you don't know what to do. Your life becomes miserable. So that's the door that opened because you knock so much that the door open, right? So that's why you need to be prepared for that. So when you ask, you need to be prepared that if it's granted, what's the consequence that will come with that wish that we have been wished for, right? So I hope. What is that? More taxes, yeah. Okay, guys, because of time, and thank you so much. We're gonna, I guess we're gonna stop here the live stream. Thank you for everyone for logging and participating. Thank you for your questions. Always good to be here. This is a topic that is endless because we all gonna be in this process of to request, not to request, to ask for spiritual help, and please don't stop to ask. But I hope this conversation may have give some ideas for you how what you have been asking, and if you feel that something is going to be granted to you, how you going to prepare yourself for to use that opportunity in your life. So with that, I'm going to stop here, and we're going to move to our passes here at the center. I wish you have a great rest of the day or beginning of the day, end of the night, and we're going to be here next Saturday with another talk. Thank you so much, and may God bless you.